Okay. Hello, everyone. I have some time before I have to head out, and there were certain ideas in my view that I felt I should record something about. The title approached me: Unknown Observers of a Known World. And there was something strange, some ideas, you look at their design, you look at most ideas are just shape and sequencing of shape in a sort of dynamic context, But to me, this view that we have been human beings this whole time and we're living as if we know what we are and what we are doing. But in some sense, if you look at this, how would I say, there's a dilemma when it comes to consciousness. In the Vedas, they say the seer of the seen is unseen, and pretty much it's another way of saying that you cannot see the one that is looking. So to me, it appears that, of course, we treat ourselves as human beings. It's like a pride of our collective. However, there is dimensions to the world. So even though it appears as one existential world, in certain, you can say, temperatures or in certain states of possibility, there is the simultaneous positioning of subjective realities. So I guess I'll just go into the subtitle from here. Pretty much what I'm saying is that there are dimensions to life, and it's as if life is this event, and for this episode I have considered that there are three realities to one world. And something even more phenomenal, something even more fascinating, I'll say, that underlying all human knowledge is a mathematical algorithm. You see, so without numbers and their distinction, it's as if our relationship as an individual with reality and the type of relationships we can have, it's as if there's an underlying mathematical structure to the story of the world. But anyways, so okay, let me just add one more thing to the setup of the episode. So pretty much I'm looking at human beings, a bunch of creatures on this rock in the middle of nowhere, moving in the universe like it's this endless space with countless stars in it, right? And so to me, it's as if when you think about what is unique, or why is there anything moving at all, or you want to study the mystery of movement of intelligence on this planet, it's as if there's an external mystery and then there's an internal mystery. Even though I say three realities for one world, but ultimately there's, in front of your eyes you find an existential landscape, behind your eyes you find an experiential landscape, and they're both actually codependent. But when I say you find an experiential landscape, just hold this idea in your mind that in front of your eyes there is one existential public server where all conscious entities have logged into, and behind your eyes there is a private experiential server. Okay, everybody has access to their own world, even though we're existing in one world. But these three realities in one world, to dive into that, and the mystery of, okay, what is moving, right? So I have considered pretty much, think of it this way, I'm not talking in absolutes, I'm not saying this is the truth, I'm saying that I consider myself as one human being among 8 billion, and this is the research, this is my journey so far into how I have contemplated dimensions to the world. Firstly, there is an physical relationship. They call this relationships relating to the body. Then when physical relationships began becoming aware that they are physical, so the awareness to physicality, that's a good definition for the mind. So there's a realm for the mind that is happening right now. Me giving this talk, I'm not just an object, making noise randomly. There's a intelligent field, call it my awareness. Pretty much what it is that the mind is being space, and the body is being what's in space. And so even though we say we are put, even if you're a spiritual person, what do you say? So like, my spirit's in my body, man. So even if the spirit is in the body, there is a space that is already in consciousness where the physicality can be even noticed, right? So what I'm trying to say is that we have a local and non-local relationship with our intelligence. Locally, my biological body is here, but when I think about how my mind is being here, I'll get to this. So let me just say the three. So there's the body, physical reality, okay, and objective reality, object-oriented reality. There's the mind, which I would say this is a subjective reality. So when you look at a human being, you look at their body, that's their body. But whose body is it? It's the personality's body. And what is the personality? We have this firm view in our culture in 2022, I would say globally, that people are unique and individual, and their personality is them. Right? So what you see, how you see they animate, it's as if that's them, that's that person's personality. Right? But to me, what I think has gone missed by just the collective, the whole species, is that really we are not personalities. Okay? There is an object and there is a subject, and think of it this way, that the object is like the film projector, the subject is the film, and then in some sense the light is something else, irrelevant to what the content of the film is or how the projector is made. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying that in some sense, when you divide intelligence into cause and effect, the causal positions are instantaneous. The effect is in time. So in some sense, it's as if people saw stuff change, and it's as if, this is really the scientific way of acknowledging the fourth dimension. So it's as if you have the three dimensions, and in some sense, if you are in a physical realm, okay, or let's say this way, I'm in this room right now, I go, let's say, travel and come back to the same position, right? The only way to differentiate these three dimensions in this moment and that moment is to include the concept of time. Okay, so time is another way of saying the mind is noticing the body move, and memories in some sense become bookmarks for time, But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that we are not a personality. We are actually this, how should I say it? It's as if we're this instantaneous force. We are, what's the term? Simulating force. Okay, so it's as if to be honest, when I was younger, I was like, okay, that's that person's personality. That's how that person is. But then I realized, no. Before a person is a person, they are actually an awareness to an inner reality. Right now, you listening to me, it's your inner reality that's listening to me. Because it's like objects don't have ears. It's like, this laptop, laptop's a bad example. Well, let's say this table can't hear me right now. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's something added to an additional dimension of intelligent activity. So there's the body's reality, there's the mind's reality. Now I'm in a very strange position. I like the word soul, but I don't. The only reason I like it is because I feel it was an important contribution to just language, right? That means think of a materialistic universe where human beings it's just objects watching objects, and suddenly, there's this concept that is saying, go further than your acceptance of how sight is being used. right? And so there comes the mysteries of the soul, right? Another view of the soul, I would say, if you're someone from a secular society, I mean, these three realities in one world, these are kind of like three different societies of people. But I would say, from a secular perspective, there is a ridiculous parallel between the concept of soul and the concept of energy. It's so strange. Do you know that means any tradition or groups of people on this planet that have entertained the idea of the soul, it has been as if the human psyche has reached a point where it's as if, okay, I've seen that I am temporary first. Now, what if the attention is eternal, right? That means it's as if like spiritual people are is another way of saying it's as if eternity has not remembered itself yet, you know. To be honest, to say that reality can be humanized, which is another way of saying it can be understood by a human being, is really like it's too far. It's too far of a reach. It's like the way I feel the human intelligence is designed. It is not designed to understand it because it's too big and we're so small. That's the one of the biggest clues why the meaning of life is not just knowledge, right? I mean, somebody who wants to build a world just based on, okay, we got it till the end of time, know things. It's like, excuse me, that's not the best strategy. So in some sense, the point is not knowledge, but if you think of the point of life just being the unknown too, it's not that either, right? It's more as if, like, this is my personal view, like, you don't know how and from how many different angles I've looked at this idea of, okay, what the hell's going on here for these creatures here, that we are. And to me, this relationship of like first establishing the known variables in your moment, then the unknown variables, then filtering the known and the unknown in accordance to simplicity and complexity, and then wondering about, okay, what is the game. To be honest, my biggest realization is that language cannot contain the multidimensionalism of the realm, simply because language is 1/4 of how multidimensional this reality is. Language is based on, just, you can say, dualisms. You need a dualism in order to speak. There needs to be a separation, right? But anyways, so there's the objective reality, there's the subjective reality, and then there comes the soul. And the soul is the best thing one can say, and really most traditions who've talked about it have said, is that it's an unknown observer. And another term they use for it is attributeless. Do you know? So what does that mean? That means that transitioning from this old school view that we're people in a world, it's as if we are becoming the instantaneous unknown awareness to awareness. That's another way of saying that there's just like how, let's say there's two people listening to me right now, hopefully one day 2 million. But what it is that it's as if unknown viewers of a known event. Do you know that means the same mystery of who it is that's listening to this talk right now? It's as if how unknown that is. It's like the same unknown applies for your own self, right? I mean, I've had moments in this life where the reason I couldn't say I'm just an object is because obviously there was a subjective awareness. It's as if you close your eyes, you remember yesterday, and you're like, wait a minute, am I in this moment remembering another moment where I close my eyes? It has realism. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like we close our eyes, there's no light entering our eyes, but we see. Like, what's up with that, right? But anyways, the build-up is just towards that these are dimensions and states of being. Now, if you act upon them or try to think about these states, they become realities, right? So it's as if reality of the body, ultimately it's survival. To me, the value of an individual is that it's like an individual has as much value as it can identify it's collective, right? I mean, what do we see? Why are there so many sociologists that they say that the human being is a social entity, a social animal? Why? Right? Because being an individual is not enough. There is some urge in the human being, after you have experienced your own personal dimensions, that you seek beyond them, right? And what that's another way of saying, like, that's another way of visualizing, as if drops, like raindrops, okay, like from leaves falling and then merging and eventually becoming streams and then rivers and then going back to the ocean. Do you see what I'm saying? It's as if it's we're not satisfied. I think this is the strange thing, that it's as if evolution is eternity's way of never accepting it's temporary. You know, it's like an unknown attention that is just dwelling, or that's just going from form to form. Just like energy cannot be created or destroyed, just like the archaic idea of the soul cannot be created or destroyed, you know, energy transforms from one form to another. The soul might reincarnates from one body to another, you know. Right now, the physical dimension is like what I'm seeing right now with my senses, hearing, seeing, you know. When I close my eyes, I find myself as an like literally attention to a pitch black screen, you know. You know, that means the sensory, the eyes are like, okay, I don't see anything, you know. I mean, technically seeing nothing is like seeing something, but you know. But what is moving, like what is moving the life force as me right now? I would say that that goes to the dimension of the mind. That's the mental reality. A person can just close their eyes and just live in their mind. It's totally possible. And I think in the future, cyberspace is going to actually actualize it, right? We're going to have children who are like imagine, you know, the parents in the future are like, okay, I want my child to open its eyes, you know, let's say after the age of 10, you know, with the maturity of like a 30-year-old person, you know. So it's as if for 10 years after the child is born, there's just cyberspace reality projected to it. You know, it's as if the child never knows it's born on Earth. It's just, it's like its consciousness awakens in a cyberspace reality, and it experiences a lifetime of 30 years where the parents input, like, okay, variables in that cyber lifetime. You know, and then after the age of 30 in that cyberspace reality, once that cyberspace reality ends, like the child wakes up as a 10-year-old with memories of a 30-year-old cyber individual. Yeah. Right. So that means the inner realms, the mental reality is like another domain that's having influence on our just behavior. And when it goes to the realm of the unknown observer, this is so mysterious, because anytime you go beyond notions of just time and space, it's as if you're left with the unknown. You know, if spiritual people and mystics were honest, you know, they would not give spirituality a storyline. You know, they wouldn't say like, you've come here to, like, your souls has to do this to find salvation. It's like, these are games, right? What it actually is a meeting with the unknown. So it's as if there's something intelligent, it's known, you've awakened on that side of the coin, now the other side of the coin remains. And what's hilarious is that the way we're biologically designed, every human being has stepped out of the unknown into the known and will return to the unknown. So the most important relationship a human being can have in this lifetime is with the unknown. And the unknown is another way of saying, like, it's the same feeling you get walking in somewhere you've never been. You know, that's a true spiritual experience, I would say. That feeling of that, when that unknown feeling arrives, you know. I've had it in certain moments of my life. Some moments of it, it's been so unknown to me where I have not engaged. So I'll give you an example of this. Like, I found myself in situations where there was karmic turbulence, and my attitude, rather than just kind of like intensely engaging the situation, was that it was as if like I was in a museum, and my like deep down I wasn't touching what I was seeing, right? It was as if an event was happening and I was just watching it from a distance, but in my inner realms. That means the personality is not related to the karma yet, the karma of the event or the situation. And I remember as I stood as this unknown observer to myself in that moment, the moment miraculously just completed itself and moved on, right? We don't realize it how much of life is not just the person thinking what decisions I have to make. It's as if what memories you want your future self to have. I think that's the crucial point. There's a quote, let me see if I can find it, by Guru Padmasambhava. This Tibetan Buddha. He says, if you want to know your past life, look at your present condition. If you want to know your future life, look at your present actions. And it makes sense because the way a person behaves suggests what's familiar to them, right? People, it's as if the brain on some level is like repeating or recycling what it's familiar with, right? It's really fascinating. More than us being like identified with the body, if we were identified with the mind, we would just be raw free will. Do you know? It's as if we're just an attention that's steering itself. So it's more like we're in a vehicle or we're a pilot, right? We're an unknown pilot in a known plane of existence. It's kind of like a pilot that knows it's in an airplane but can't see itself yet, because it's identifying with the plane. Can you imagine an enlightened like airline pilot, they're like, all right, pilot, you gotta get off this plane, and the pilot's like, I am the plane. They're like, no, the flight's finished, you gotta get off the plane. The pilot's like, no, if you want to get rid of me, it's like, you gotta get rid of the plane. Anyways, unknown force is moving known stuff, guys. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's fascinating enough for every human being to pay attention to be honest. You know, in the realms, if you look at life as a body, this is another way of saying that you want to understand the mind and the soul. And let me say it this way: mind is 100%, soul is 100% unknown. Let's give mind 50% known, 50% unknown, and then the body is like 100% known. That means it's like we're aware of its existence. The mind, semi-aware because it is awareness. The soul is it's as if that which is aware of memory cannot be in memory, so it cannot have any sort of reference or shape, right? Because when we try to look at attain meaning from something or extract meaning from something, really what it is that our memories are being injected into what we are seeing and then reflecting back as a sort of confirmation. So really the act of meaning is the act same as giving names. We're just imprinting value on stuff that is really hollow on some level, right? That means I'm calling this object in front of me a table, right? But the word table and the table is becoming the meaning, right? The concepts like the subject, the link of the subject with the object. But really, who says this has to be called a table? We're putting the meaning there. So it's as if what we're certain about is not, let's say, meaning. It's that there we are. It's like an event. It's like a verb. Our certainty of consciousness is like a verb, not a noun. So if we try to understand it as a noun, it becomes impossible. From the mind's perspective, this is where solipsists live. From the mind's perspective, the body is there only because the mind is. You know, the mind to itself is just pure being. The mind to the soul is how it is like an effect. You know, here's the thing: the moment we make the body, mind, and soul into gradients or like a concentric circle, the moment we do that, we start a cause and effect relationship, right? It's as if you can see the body. If the body is in the causal position, it's as if the body caused the mind, or the mind is the effect of the body, and the soul is the effect of the mind. If you reverse that, it's as if the mind is the effect of the soul, and the body is effect of the mind. This is where I would say you as a human being start living more as a mind than a body, and if you do, you have to be careful because we haven't mastered how to do it as a species. And when I say be careful, what do I mean? You see, the mind has access to speeds that we cannot experience in the outer realms, right? So to me, it's as if think of attention being a sort of vehicle where you're in, and this vehicle in front of your eyes, it's slow, everybody can drive, you know, but behind your eyes it's like a highway, like those highways in Germany where, what is it, 200 kilometers per hour or something, like you know. So in the inner realms, things that you see in the outer realms can amplify, they can change, and they can, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but really it's like clay, you can shape it. Anything I see in front of my eyes, I could just close my eyes and visualize something happening to it. You know, there's this bottle of water here in front of me. I can close my eyes and visualize like my whole room filled with like this kind of bottle of water. You know, right? So in the inner realms, there's an ability to stretch reality in ways which is not possible in the outer realms. And a testament to this is just the whole artistic, dimension of human life. Like all the filmmakers, writers, you know, communicators in human life, what are they doing? It's as if they're experiencing something behind their eyes that has not been visible in the outer realms, and they just bring it out there. It's another way of saying even inventors too, you know. I would totally say that we are like nature, kind of. The human being is nature's way of creating an invention that is its own inventor, you know, because it's energy. It's if like, why is there energy? You know, I remember hearing this seeing this YouTube video a while back, years ago, and there was this rabbi, and he said a very unique statement that I just remembered, you know, and he said that I see human beings as packets of energy, and I was like, yo. You know, it's like, yeah, we are containers of energy. This energy has a kinetic view and a potential view. We act upon our energy, which translates to effort. There's like kinetic, it's like it's in motion. And if we don't do anything, it's as if there's potential energy, right? So that means it's like when you don't do anything, you have the potential to do something. You know, and when you do something, it's as if that energy is actualized. And really, a life on some level, in a binary way, in a 0-1 way, you know, in an on-off way, it's pretty much energy, no energy. Right now, in order for me to give this talk, there's energy. Like, ultimately, if there was a soul, the soul's like, all right, I'm going to have energy now to give this talk. Yeah. So it's like really a sequence of how much energy that is released. throughout the day. And what's the purpose of energy? It's to be used. That's the strange thing. I mean, that's what really mortality tells us, that for a limited time, you have energy to actualize what you're receiving behind your eyes, in front of your eyes. That's really the meaning of life. You know, we're literally a bridge between dimensions. We're not just human beings. We are a multidimensional crossroad, or a multidimensional intersection. And there's so many ways to look at life, which is another way of saying it's like sometimes you might even think like the purpose of life is not to. I mean, this is a very hard statement to say, but I don't know. I'll just say it just so that I touched upon it, that it could be even more than seeing, right? Because when you have we're a limited entity, and this limited entity has access to certain known dimensions. After it has been used and played with those known dimensions, the unknown dimensions remain. Now, what if this was flipped around? What if you were an unknown being and you were just looking for knowledge, An unknown being consuming knowledge. It's like the body needs food, the mind needs new unknown variables to make known, and the soul is literally the space. Because I've thought about, there are people who talk about, what do you call it, out of body experiences. I've had moments where I have been out of body, but I wouldn't say out of mind. The only out of mind experience I've had is in sleep, where there is no conscious framework, That means an out of body experience is still like your mind's still there, It's just fascinating to me. We're all existing, and the mind gives us the capacity to self-actualize, which is another way of saying you react to the stimulus of this world. A sense of self emerges, and then that sense of self can again react. Right? That's what's happening. It's like this endless updating process. Now, the point of being an unknown observer, that's even like as mysterious as if there were aliens that landed down on Earth. Imagine aliens in the future, they landed on Earth, right? And somehow they had mouths and they could speak and they were smart enough to just, access certain, like just from our tonality, understand the meaning of our words or something, right? And then imagine we're like, yo, extraterrestrials, who are you guys? What are you guys? And then imagine the extraterrestrials ask us the same thing, like, whoa, human beings? Like, what are you guys? And to be honest, the answer is unknown. The answer is unknown. That means I wouldn't be surprised if aliens were like shaking hands with human leaders in the future publicly, and there was like a yogi and a mystic, and the yogi was like, no, bullshit, everything's unknown. It's like whatever the alien knows, it's still unknown, it's like Para Brahman, What I'm trying to say is like, just like how the aliens are unknown to us, we're still unknown to us. We're living in an era, we're in the pre-mind era. We don't know what the mind is, but everybody acts like they have it. It's not an object. It's more like a potential field. And this, just the fact that there's these different realities, a reality of just objects, and then a reality of subjects, and then a reality that is aware that the subject and object are simultaneously there. That's the territory of the soul, let's say. The more we understand ourselves as energy and space, the less human we are. Like, the less there's a reason to be an individual. It's like a raindrop falling into an ocean. It's like, is it still a raindrop? You know, or is the ocean the actuality? And the fact that we have come up with the concept of truth, like, just think about that. Truth. It's as if it's like the in a changing world, what truth are you believing in? I think in the future we're gonna have like a religious community that just worships change, you know. It's like changeism, you know. It's like these human beings believe that everything needs to change. Even their own philosophy needs to change, you know. So changeism would be an endlessly changing philosophy. But what can I say? It's like the moment there is no more a body, then individual storylines go out of the picture. And if the human being has a desire for life to be a story, of course, like, as long as they have the desire for truth to be something that is reasonable, it's as if the attention will not go beyond the subjective domain. You know, sometimes I have wondered, okay, like, let's say there was some event or something that was going to happen, and I was about to exit, like, the dimension, like, exit this world. What would my attitude be to my own exit from this physical dimension? You know, or what would my, just as a human being, just what would my view be before I exit? And I thought about it, and I thought about, it's only based on how well I know what I am before it ends. Which would be, in some sense, as if exiting before you exit. So I think I would, you know, I would say it would be a sort of kind of Mahasamadhi, but it's as if the inner life leaves before the outer life can. So when the outer life leaves, it's just an object. It's as if you release your objective life, you release your subjective life from your objective life, you know. And so the objective life just is, it's like, you know, an airplane that, you know, crashes, or, you know, it's just like, you know, Titanic vibes. But the mind, that's something where I think it has a choice too. You know, sometimes I've thought that if the mind is not an object and there is a momentum of intelligence behind it, could it be that when the objective component life is gone, the subject is still there? Do you know? Because in the inner realms, it's like a copy paste of the outer realms. So it's as if, like, sometimes I think it could, when people die, does consciousness echo? Anyways, I don't know, guys. Just this episode, there was just this feeling I had that We don't realize how incredibly unknown life is. Our knowledge is just a workable strategy so far. And if we were to prepare for a multidimensional era of human living, those dimensions, some of them would be self-created, some of them would be in some sense the outer realms changing. Cyberspace would be as if a multidimensionality with existence, you know. But in some sense, a yogi sitting in a cave and then realizing that it's the unknown viewer of all the known factors of life. It's this kind of feeling where I think whoever accesses this feeling would become an incredible creative individual. When you get this feeling that nobody ever has known what's going on. They have known how a part of this vastness has been going on, but to know all of it, is impossible. I never thought I'd say this, but knowledge, when the being is actually multidimensional, can be a fool's errand. Knowledge is like it's honestly like a candy shop. It's like Willy Wonka's, factory or something. I think if there are three realities being one world, based on, let me say it this way, whoever you are, you have a value system. This value system is based on where you are right now and the memories you have collected from the beginning of your life till now. And also all the inner realm acquisitions of creative moments. So what that means is, think of it this way, that the brain is not just capturing memories like a video camera as the person's living their life, but it's also taking these photos or these video clips that it sees, its memories, and then colliding them, like meshing them together and bringing up variables. The mind, the brain, I would say, is so advanced where it's doing things that are not in the domain of consciousness. I mean, just think about just the body. Like, everything's automated, no? Your heart is automated, your breathing is involuntary. Only when it comes to the brain and free will, it's like, okay, voluntary. It's kind of strange. It's as if consciousness has taken responsibility for a percentage of the body, but not the totality of the body. And I think because it would be too much information. Imagine a person who could monitor every cell in their body, where it was, what it was doing. Like, that would be too much information, right? But the body's naturally doing it. Nature has an ability to allow the advanced to function in ways where a linear conscious mind can't. So let's say 70% of the body is being automated. It's involuntary functions, and then 30% voluntary functions. And then aside from this 30% voluntary functions, it's as if the rest is just the mind's domain. Right now, when I'm wondering, okay, who's giving this talk? Like, who am I giving this talk right now? It's honestly like an attention staring out of my eyes. That's it. It's like The biggest spiritual mystery. It's like, what's looking out through my eyes? What can unknown observers of a known world do? They can use their knowledge to reintroduce themselves to the unknown. And it's strange, you know? The strangest thing about life is that nature has decided its positions. It's like a multiplayer online game where the character customization is not in consciousness. So in like video games, you get to customize your character, and then the character goes out in the, digital landscape and, completes quests, right? But when human beings are born, they open their eyes in the character already customized, you know? It's as if the entrance of consciousness is into a body that is already in the consciousness of others. So it's another way of saying consciousness outside of ourself raises us to a point where we can be conscious of ourselves, and then we do the same thing. We copy the algorithm. It's all about from when it comes to at least the mind, I would say nothing something, nothing something, nothing something. And you know what's even bizarre? The what we call an atom, or let me say what we call an object, is a certain state. It's literally like the periodic table animating is everything. And when it's as if like when the periodic table I don't know how to say it. Let's say a unique combination of cells and elements, they find an allegiance, and suddenly, an organism appears. Okay. Sorry, guys, my attention went somewhere else. You don't know. Like sometimes when I think about, okay, I get on this like YouTube platform and talk. It's like, what can I really say? You know, because to me, so far in all the talks I've given, I've come to certain conclusions that reality, ultimately, everything we can talk about, it can fit into 4 categories. I'm not kidding. It's as if like the possibilities of reality from a psychological angle, it's like what? One is emptiness. I've put the number 0. One is the singular. Everything's just one event. You can't even understand it because it's all happening at once, right? So there's a singular view. Then there's a dualistic view where we have society, the game of the rise and fall of civilizations, the rise and fall of conscious entities, and pretty much the game of the world. And the thing about duality, it's endless. It's endless. It doesn't end. As long as there's light and darkness, duality won't end. Even if our species goes extinct, the sun will shine on some planet, and that planet will spin around itself, and the contrast of light, the on and off switch of light, will again lead to civilizations arising. And beyond duality, you have infinity, which you can say the way I think about it, it's like 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That means duality just, in some sense, what do you do after you have become an infinite being? Right now, we're like 8 billion finite beings, in an infinite world. What if we became 8 billion infinite beings in a finite world? You know? What if it like reversed? What if we were living in a civilization where everybody already knew they were eternal? Think of like the same conviction that people have of being temporary. Imagine the opposite, right? Imagine somebody talks about death in like an eternal civilization, and they'll be like, "Death, buddy? Are you kidding me? There's no death. It's like everybody's eternal. Even the youngest kids in the, society know we're eternal." you know? It's like, why isn't that person afraid of death? It's because death died to eternity, you know. This might be an interesting quote to say: when death dies, the eternal remember. What we can do is max out the potential of the biological body. Not just to maintain it, but to evolve it consciously. When it comes to the mind is just an expression. I shouldn't say just, but it's like an antenna, and then what it receives, it can relay. It's like the purpose of your body is to endure. The purpose of your mind is to express. The purpose of the soul is to find contentment with how instantaneously there is no knowledge for there to be reality. You see, this is really when it would become easy for you to have, I would say, like super concentration, or go into what certain shamanic cultures like trance states. For me, anytime I make my attention single pointed, I just go into a state where it's as if things become automated. But when my attention is on a bunch of things at the same time, if it's overwhelming, sometimes it leads to paralysis. But if it's not overwhelming, then it leads to conscious piloting. So it's as if like it's like life either happens on its own, either you make it happen, or in some sense, life is happening regardless. Like, how would I say it? It's as if the eyes are not what they see. Sight isn't physical. Sight isn't a physical thing, even though it's aware of you're seeing the physical, but it's not a physical event. And somebody could ask, okay, Mr. Within, you say that it's multidimensional. We're going towards a multidimensional era. But why does nature need to be multidimensional? And the simplest answer would be it just is. But another answer would be is because there is something being gained from the addition of dimensions. It's just fascinating. Like we are this biological mechanism that just collects enough information to then run another program of life within itself to then behave differently in the outer realms. You know, we are not just living in the world. Behind our eyes, the world is living in us. You know, recently I was thinking, pretty much this past year, I've just been thinking as if, like, beyond language, what else is there? And it's just an experiential thing. That means after someone, let's say, has talked about something, and then after someone has drawn, that thing they were talking about, they've written it down. It's like after all these channels of expressionism have been played out, the final thing that is left is just an experience. And when it comes to justifying what experiences human beings need to have, it's like that's when you suddenly reach the point where you see it all goes back to nature. The same way that, let's say, a bird is building a nest, and like human beings don't go to that bird and it's like, yo bird, build your nest this way. It's like we don't care to engage it. It's like after some point nature takes over again. I honestly feel this statement of unknown observers of a known world is very important. It's honest. Because everything we see, like what happens every day, you wake up, you experience something new, and that reformats what you saw before. What time is it? All right, guys, I'll try to get some ideas out for the next 15 minutes, and then so if I entertain this notion of three realities, we have the body, mind, soul. And then the other option is like there's soul, there's mind, there's body. Whatever is in the causal position ends up just being. So if I consider that my body is the cause of everything that I'm aware of, everything will just come down to meaningless atomic existence. But if I consider that the unknown is the causal position, then it all goes back to the unknown. Nothing can be said. I guess this episode ended up being one of those episodes where I'm talking about the unspeakable, guys. Better listen up. You can't satisfy everybody. That we're not even creatures designed to have comfort. We're designed for evolution. It's as if that's what's happening. some sort of biological pattern endlessly repeating itself, then attaining some sort of mind, wondering what's going to happen to the biological pattern. Realistically, like if we survive, what does that mean? That means human beings are all over the universe. We spread like everywhere in the galaxy, you know. So, and if technology gets rid of all the physical labor in the future and all the challenges of physicality, pretty much the purpose of human life would be to be just like, it would just be creativity, and it would just be the creative dimension. In the outer realms, translating as sex, in the inner realms, translating as just inventions and new ideas. So in the outer realms, best case scenario, we're just, the human patterns everywhere. When it comes to the mind will create, and most likely reach a point where its creation doesn't make sense, and then continue, and then, oh, that explains it, at least. So the purpose of the body just endlessly maintained. Let's say the purpose of the mind is to endlessly explore. So the mind explores the known, then eventually explores the unknown in such a way where it cannot have a memory of it. So then it's like, again, appearing in an unknown world. So it's as if the evolution of the known it's honestly like a back and forth. It's kind of like a heartbeat of the cosmos. Uh, it's just everything and nothing. It's going back and forth. We're in the middle. We're sandwiched between everything and nothing, philosophically. A part of me still feels that it could also be like a giant research project. It could be that we are efforts of a planetary intelligence to be individuals. Because for a lot of people, let's say the notion of peace or inner peace, it's harmony. And harmony is another way of saying everything's flowing simultaneously, or you're in alignment with what's flowing. It could be, we can entertain this notion that the human intelligence is not from the earth, and if it's not from the earth, it has a different urge, right? So imagine, I mean, this is kind of touching upon the creator argument, but imagine the creator of human intelligence created an intelligence that was designed to actually not live on the planet. Do you know? It was designed to live in space. I mean, think about it, right? We look at space and we're like it's empty, but it's still a habitat. It's still some environment, right? And environments lead to intelligence in them, right? So what I'm trying to say, it's as if like rather than just contemplating what's going to happen to human beings in only a physical dimension, I think the future generations are just going to feel like we all of us now in 2022, we lived in a way where it's as if we're in one room of a house. The future generations are going to keep discovering rooms to the house. That's going to be their feeling. They're going to just see more out of what we saw. So I think the best contribution to the future generation is just like honest sight. we can entertain this view that maybe human beings are like puzzle pieces. We can try to see that an individual is not just designed for self truth. It's like there's collective truths that emerge, or truths that emerge only when there's a collective in place or collective position. Okay. I want to go into a quote tunnel uh, and read a bunch of quotes from this man called Shams Tabrizi. 700 years ago, there was this guy named Rumi, and Shams Tabrizi was his like guru. Shams Tabrizi says, "It's never late to ask yourself, am I ready to change my life? Am I ready to change myself? However old we are, whatever we went through, it is always possible to be reborn. If each day is a copy of the last one, what a pity. Every breath is a chance to be reborn. But to be reborn into a new life, you have to die before dying." This guy's saying this from like 700 years ago, by the way, guys. Shams Tabrizi says, "The chemistry of mind is different from the chemistry of love. The mind is careful, suspicious. He advances little by little. He advises, be careful, protect yourself, whereas love says, let yourself go. The mind is strong, never falls down, while love hurts itself, falls into ruins. But isn't it in ruins that we mostly find the treasures? A broken heart hides so many treasures." Shams Tabrizi says, "The real dirt is not outside, but inside in our hearts." I think this is definitely a quote for some people in the chat section to listen to. The real Shams Tabrizi says, "The real dirt is not outside, but inside in our hearts. We can wash all stains with water. The only one we can't remove is the grudge and the bad intentions sticking to our hearts." Shams Tabrizi says, "Whatever happens in your life, no matter how troubling things might seem, do not enter the neighborhood of despair. Even when all doors remained closed, God will open up a new path only for you. Be thankful. It is easy to be thankful when all is well." A Sufi, Shams is from the Sufi tradition. He says, "A Sufi is thankful not only for what he has been given, but also for that he has been denied." Shams Tabrizi says there are more what does he say? He says there are more fake guides, teachers in the world than stars. The real guide is the one who makes you see your inner beauty, not the one who wants to be admired and followed. Honestly, I remember, guys, in 2016, I had a chance to go back to Iran, and I spoke publicly for the first time with like a microphone in my hand in a room of maybe like, I don't know, 20, 30 people. And it wasn't planned. It's like at the end they asked me to speak. And I remember in this event, the people who were talking before me, They all came up and they're literally, the announcer was like, "Master, master this guy, master that guy," you know. Sorry, guys. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. All right. It's a sign I gotta go soon. But anyways, so I'm there in this event. Before me, everybody's like, in Farsi the word is ostad, right? So they were like introducing each of them as like master. This guy, like there were so many masters in that meeting, you know, you know, vocally claimed masters, right? I remember, it's my turn. The guy's like, "You have 10 minutes." Like I finished in 8, and I remember I start talking, and I think it's talk MW438 if you search that. But anyways, I'm there talking, and I end up saying that, uh, don't look for a master outside of you, because you will be attaching yourself to someone who you don't know who they are, right? And I said that the only task of this whole guru archetype in history has been to, in some sense, make the person, the guru's job was to make the disciple realize the inner guru, you know? Because what guru wants a bunch of people following him around, you know? You know, it's like we're not designed to be comfortable with that. You know, maybe some people are in history. I don't know what. But the idea is that, no, you don't go getting attached to something outside of you, making you see, like, truth is something within you, right? And I remember the last sentence I finished that talk I was giving in Iran, the public talk, was, I said, "Your moment of being is your only guru, and has been there with you from the beginning." Has has been there from the beginning, right? So if a person looks for truth outside of themselves, right? It's not something from a causal position of your intelligence to some degree, right? So in some sense, it's as if like some part of you never accepts it. I personally think, you know, even you see like videos of like, there's like, people like Sadhguru or like various other people, where people are like worshiping them, but they're like indirectly, they're like ninja worshippers, you know. You know, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying that the whole point is that it's like an inner event. It's like you're an unknown observer of a known reality. If you don't attempt to get to know what you are, even if you hear somebody else's truth, you still don't know what you are. You know, so it's as if, on some level, who's receiving it. The solution I came up with in the Mr. Within talks, and just, this is really my attitude, is that I don't believe like we need the whole teacher student thing. We should just have this attitude, because the teacher is still a student, do you know? And the student can teach to those, like, you know what I mean? It's like a kid in grade, I don't know, like in grade 5 can teach a kid in grade 4, do you know? Do you see what I mean? It's like there is no end. Everybody's a student when it comes to the unknown. When it comes to the known, if you know something, sure, in your ability to relay it and share the image, you became a teacher for a moment, you know. But if you have this attitude that we're all explorers, and I think this is a good point for me to go back to the title. The best thing unknown observers can do is that, just like hunter gatherers, their attitude to the world, they would go out in the world and they would bring stuff back into the tribe. The human species develops this very efficient, let's say honest, collective network of information processing. So what that means is, like various human beings, we start finding ways of managing like information about the psyche, right? So it's like we become hunter gatherers of the inner realms, not just the outer realms. And so these unknown observers begin sharing their explorations, and it's like when the whole species becomes a giant research project of like how many dimensions of humanism is there, like how many ways are human beings experiencing stuff, you know. Then in some sense it's as if, think of it this way, that which is looking through your eyes is getting closer into becoming content with itself, right? So how would I say it? The unknown is like a state where you can't hold on to anything. So ultimately what happens is that there's a watcher of change. I mean, all we can do really through language is just information management. Every person who speaks, it's like, you know, their eyes are painting reality to some degree. Imagine there was like this global law that every human being on this planet needs to write at least, I mean, law would be too intense, but here I'll say it this way: imagine every human being on the planet wrote a book about what they could only see about their own mind, and it was just like this giant, you know, research place again for it. Anyways. So guys, in the chat section, I'm seeing a lot of comments. If you write a comment in regards to, like, you gotta share the context of what you say. Usually emotional comments I try to not to touch, you know. But anyways, final words. Without multidimensional tolerance, we cannot access a state as a species to see where the fruits of each other's minds, like what it can create. I think the species is reaching a point where we need a completely new human story, or a complete new definition of the human being. And so it's as if maybe this would be the biggest, you know, philosopher-based project, you know, in the world. Imagine it's like somebody was like, philosophers assemble. And you know, every philosopher, even those sleeping in the middle of the night, suddenly woke up and they're like, okay, I need to write an essay right now. Oh man. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Um, to be honest, I feel maybe I could have prepared differently for this episode. I kind of just thought about this importance of like these three realities in one world and what we can do with them. And it's as if like finding purposes of the body, as if like living for the body of the civilization, living for the mind of the civilization, and then being the soul of the civilization. That means not just having healthy body, healthy minds, but also having them activated in a healthy way, right? There could be a healthy person, but their mind could be unhealthy, right? There could be a person with a healthy mind, but their body could be unhealthy, right? And they could be even both of these people, and they can have healthy and unhealthy relationships with the collective environment. I think we have to inspire the children of the future generations to care for realities way bigger than the ones we've held so far. You know, that means we're reaching the edge of the era of. I declared it in 2020, like it's been 2 years, but like, I see it that it's as if we have moved. The linguistic simulation is shaking. Human beings are reaching a point where to directly experience life is being prioritized more than the indirect, linguistic acceptance of life. What that means is like these characters in a story are. It's not enough for them to just be a character in a story. So it means collective experiential events. The human being is a creature that expresses itself. Like every aspect of society, it's like expressionism. You see it everywhere. So it's as if like advancing how we express really has to do with what we see first, right? And I guess the best thing I could say, don't be convinced by your eyes when there are many more, when there's so much more. The species has to find an efficient strategy to associate with known reality. The attention of the species has to adjust in a way where when it looks at the unknown, it doesn't fear itself into paralysis and terror or greed or violence, but rather we look at the unknown and we see an opportunity for minds to apply their bodies differently. I honestly feel if you look at the scale of the universe and you look at how recent language is a recent acquisition of our species. We recently, compared to the billions of years in the making of our species, it's like language is fairly recent. What is it, like 200,000 years ago? And what writing was like even less than that. So to advance communication in the inner realms and to advance civilization in the outer realms, that is the effort for Civilization 2.0. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. And thanks for listening, guys. Blessings.